Well, at least you're watching, Christine, so that's something. I must admit it would be nice to be outside doing this, but I'm not sure it would go down well on camera, to be honest, so we'll stick with indoors for now. You okay, Mary? Is it nice where you are today as well? Hi Marilyn. Thank you for joining me this afternoon. I'll just give it a couple of seconds just to see if anybody else is going to join us. Hi Wendy. Hope you had a nice day yesterday. Hi Natalia. Right, I think we'll get cracking. And then if anybody else joins us, then all well and good. So I thought I would make a card based on the sketch for the 5,000 members sketch challenge. Can you believe 5,000 members in not quite 2 years? I think that's flipping amazing. Just goes to show that a lot of people like what Lisa does, me included. So, lovely day. Nice. It's nice to have a lovely day on your birthday. Especially where you are. I would imagine the weather was quite nice. And you did go out for a meal, I'm sure. So, let's get stuck into today's card. As I said, this is based on the sketch for the 5,000 members challenge. Which is this one. Excuse me. So we do ask you that you only use Lisa's products, and I noticed that there was a question in the group yesterday asking if somebody could use a different company's papers. We'd prefer you not to, because there are ways around not having any of Lisa's papers, and that's one of the things that I'm going to show you today. So I haven't used any of Lisa's papers on my card today. I've just done my own background, just using inks and stamps. So if you've got inks and you've got stamps, there's no reason why you still can't join in the challenge, even if you've got none of Lisa's papers. So this is the sketch that we're working on, and this is the card that I made yesterday just to promote the live for today. And as you can see, I followed the sketch even down to the 3 pearls, which I'm quite pleased about because I always like to add a bit of sparkle. And I used the rose 3D rose embossing folder. I didn't use the actual folder as like an embossed background. I just used one of the roses, cut it out 3 times, and then layered it up to make it 3D. And I actually cut that from the other half of the card that I did my own background on for this. I haven't used stamps on this one. I used the Dotty 3D embossing folder. So the embossing folders that I used, let me just move this out of the way for now. The embossing folders that I used on yesterday's card were the Weave, the Roses, and the Dotty. Now there's quite a lot of the Dotty still in stock, so if you wanted to grab that, then do. That one's $6.99, but the Weave and the Rose, they are low in stocks. There's only 6 of the Weave left and 3 of the Rose, so if you wanted to grab the Rose one, I'd be quick because there aren't many left. Hi Anne. So those are the 3 folders that I used yesterday. I also used the nested scalloped and plain circles, so that was what I used to make my circle. I haven't used those today, I've used something different today. And then for both cards I've used the Squiggle Script sentiments. Now there's 10 dies in here, and the one die cuts out the word and the other die cuts out the background, which is great if you're not brilliant at stamping because you don't have to worry about stamping them out. You just die cut the word and then die cut the background to sit it on, like I have here. So I've die cut the word in one colour, which is actually out of the same card that the background is, and then a contrasting card for the matting and layering bit. Okay, so that's what I used yesterday. I've also used those today. I'll put that back there. Now, to make this bit, I actually used the nested banners. These were a lovely little set that Lisa had right sort of at the beginning. They've gone now, but you could use, if you've got the nested stitched rectangles or the scalloped and stitched rectangles, you could use either of those and just cut your V into the end, or you could just draw it out freehand and just cut the V into the end, because you only need the V on one end because I've cut it off on the other end. Okay, so there are ways around not having those. And then obviously I've used pearls on my card to fit the challenge, and I used the Rainbow Skies and the Rainbow Collection, the Summer Sun and Cool Skies, but again, they've gone, but there are other things that you can use. So, you know, it's just, I wanted to show you what I'd used, even though it's not actually available at the moment, but there are options. You could use lots of other different things. You could even cut out circles in a contrasting card and just stick those on the top, so that, you know, there are ways around it. So today's card looks slightly different. I wanted to do a card today that sort of you could use for a bloke if you wanted to. So I do think chaps get a sort of a raw deal when it comes to card making. Hi Jean, how are you? So I wanted something that you could use for a female, but would be equally as fitting to use for a bloke as well. So on today's card, as I said, I've made my own background. If I show you the background that I've done, and all I've done here is I've used several oxide inks, and I've used Lisa's fabulous blending brushes because they just give such a fabulous finish, and I've used several different colours. There's bundled sage, wild honey, fossilised amber, dusty concord and faded jeans, I think. And then the stamping on the top, I used dusty concord in the proper distress ink, because that will sort of sit on top of the oxides and will stand out. And I decided to leave all the stamping in one colour. I was going to change it up and use different colours, but I decided against it because I didn't want it to be overly fussy. I mean, there is a lot on here, but I think once you put it on your card and you're sort of cutting this up and you've not got such a big area, it doesn't look this busy. But I've used on this background the postcard stamp, the postcards from the Edge it's called. There are only 3 of these left in stock at £9.99, but they are a brilliant stamp. And the thing I like about this postcard stamp is that there is no harsh edge on it. So if you see here, this is stamped completely, but there's no line around it. And that, to me, just gives you that vintage look on your cards. So if you wanted to use it as a proper stamp, you could stamp it out and then tear the edges so that it looks more antique-y. And then if you add some sort of texture on the top, like the little splat stamps out of the textures set, so I've used this one, and you can see here like little splats every now and again that I've just randomly placed all over the card. So I've used the script stamp as well, which you can see in 2 or 3 places. I haven't used the whole stamp. I've just literally had the stamp in my hand, added it to the stamp pad, and then just added it to the background. Just as easy as that. I also used this little stamp here in 2 or 3 different places, and none of them really stand out as, oh yes, there's the splat stamp. They sort of all blend into one, but they all give a little bit of texture and a little bit of interest to the background on your card. So I've used those 2, and then I also used the distressed bubble wrap stamp. And again, these are still in stock. There are 9 of these in stock. These 2 are £9.99, and this little texture set is £10.99. Now there are only 4 of these left because these were really popular when Lisa bought them back. I cannot tell you how many times the design team used this set of stamps. They are phenomenal. So if you haven't already got them and you know you're thinking about it, I'd be quick, because I have a feeling they might not come back again. So we've really badgered Lisa to bring these back, so they may not come back again. So if you want it, grab it quick. So those are the stamps that I've used on my background. And again, I've used the Squiggle Script Sentiments die set. 10 dies in here, 5 words. And when you get them, they'll just come in one bag. And all I did, to make it easy for myself, is split them down into their individual words and put them in separate bags, so that it's easy for me to find a word rather than try and match them up all the time. So you can see on the back what you actually get. You get a die that cuts out the word and a die that cuts out the background, and then you add them together. So if you run those through your die cutting machine as a set 2 or 3 times, then you've got ready-made sentiments without having to get your inks out. So good set to have that. Quite a few of those left in stock, and they're $19.99. Really good price for those. Now the other set I've used today, rather than the rose, is this lovely Through the Grapevine die set. This is one of the early sets that Lisa bought out, and I just think it's one of those dies that you could use for men's cards, and I just think it's something a little bit different without being specifically for a man. You could use it for either, but this one's currently in the sale. It's currently $9.99, normally $16.99. There are quite a few in stock, so if you wanted it, then you know there are some in stock. But I know these are coming back to TV, and next time Lisa's on TV, which is the 23rd of July, 9 AM and 2:15, and it's a big sale show. And believe me when I say it's a big sale show, it is huge. There are a lot of dies and stamps and all sorts on that show. I'm sure there are bound to be some fantastic offers as well. And I think a lot of what you see, you may not see again. So if you're on the fence, thinking about buying, then I'd watch the sale show and get what you can while you can. So instead of the scallop circles, I've used the nested torn edge circles today, and I've also used the variegated leaf 3D embossing folder. Now this one is one of the ones that comes with the die for the 3 leaves, a fabulous little set. Now there's only 2 of these left in stock, so if you want these, I'd be quick. This is $10.99, where the ones without the die are a little bit cheaper, but obviously you've got metal in here that's going to cost a little bit extra. But I do think this particular folder is one of those that you'll use over and over again, because you can use these leaves with so many different flowers. So well worth getting that one. Okay, so let's get on and make our card. I'm using a 5x7 card because I just think it fitted the sketch really well. And what I'm doing is I'm going to use a piece of card for the background, and this card, the colour of this card, is what's going to tie the whole of the card together. Okay, so I'll put my background piece of card down first. I didn't mat and layer on the original. I just used the embossing folder as my background. But for this one, because I wanted to tie everything in with a specific colour, I decided to go for a mat and layer on the back. And I'm using a wet glue because it just gives me a little bit of time to move my card around and make sure it's stuck in the right place. Okay, now I've only put a very small layer on here. I only wanted it to be enough to just give you the hint of colour so that it ties everything in. And obviously this is the background that I've made this morning, and as I said, I've used different colours to the one I made yesterday because I wanted these to be a little bit more, not more masculine, just less feminine, if that makes sense. because I think the colours that I used yesterday, there is no way you could ever describe those as masculine colours. But these, I think, do. So you see the difference in the colours to what I used yesterday. That's definitely feminine. That's either or. But you could use that more safely for a man's card, I feel. So there's my base of my card. Now you'll see on the sketch that this piece is at a weird angle. So what I decided to do was use the variegated leaves folder, and I embossed it and then moved the card and embossed it again. Now this isn't a repeating pattern on this folder, and you can see here where my folder overlapped, but when you put this card together you won't see any of that. So although you know it's there, nobody else is going to. Thank you, Natalia. It's just they're my sorts of colours, and I do love that little textured stamp set, and the postcard one is one of my absolute favourites. So I'm going to glue this down. Now all I did to get the right shape was lay my card on top of my base card, this embossed piece, laid it on top of this piece, and angled it so that it was at the same angle as the sketch, and then cut it down. But what I did was put it there, cut it down, but moved it a little bit because I wanted to mat and layer this piece as well, and I wanted the mat and layered piece to be in the right position on my card. You'll see what I mean in a second. Now, I was quite liberal with the glue there, because when you're sticking an embossing folder down, there are a lot of raised bits, obviously due to the embossing, and I just want to make sure that it all sticks properly. Right, so then this piece here is going to line up with the edge of my card and is going to fit exactly where it should do to tie in with the sketch. I mean, if you wanted to, you could make it that way round. So long as you can see the sketch when you submit your card, you could even do it that way if you wanted. There's nothing that says your card's got to look like that your card's got to sit like that. You can make it any way round you like. So long as we can see the basic sketch, it'll be fine. And I think I've said that to you before when I've done cards that follow sketches. And I do think sometimes when your mojo is a little bit wayward, you know, it's run away with the fairies, and you're sitting there and thinking, I have no idea what to do. If you look at some sketches, might just give your mojo a little bit of a push. That's what I tend to do. If I'm sitting and thinking, got no inspiration, don't know what to do, I'll either look for a sketch and then make my card based on the sketch, or go to Pinterest. I look at our Pinterest boards. Lisa Horton Crafts Inspiration is the name of the Pinterest boards if you want to go and have a look. And on there are several different boards based on different products. So there's dies board, stamps, papers, MDF, different aspects. You'll find some cards are in more than one folder, because obviously some cards are going to feature stamps, papers and dies. So you'll find that card on each board, and that's so that you don't really miss it. So if you're only looking at the dies board, but you see one that's on there that you like, that's got some papers in the background, it will help your inspiration along as well, hopefully. Right, so that's the basis of my sketch, and then I'm just going to add my extra little bits. Now, I wanted the circle, but I didn't want to use the same die set. I wanted to use the torn edge ones, because again, I feel that the scalloped one is more feminine than the torn edge one. So I've gone for the torn edge so that you could give it to a man or a woman. Now, little tip, when you die cut these, line them up before you sort of glue them together, turn them over and put a little T where the top is, so that when you've put your glue on, because we all do it, we lift the one piece off, we add the glue to the background, and occasionally turn it round so that when you go back it doesn't line up. So if you put your little T at the top, you know that when you turn this over, those little kinks that are on the back one will line up with the ones on the front, like so. And then the one thing I didn't do in preparation was just add some pads on the back, because I wanted to raise this up a little bit. So if I just add those now, honestly, some of these pads are brilliant and others are rubbish, but so long as they do the job I want them to do, that's fine. I'll just pop those on the back. Hi Kerry, hi Lisa, hi Lorraine. Don't worry Lorraine, it'll be in the group afterwards and it'll also be on our YouTube channel, so there's plenty of places where you'll be able to watch it from the start if you missed the start, so don't worry about that. Okay, so those are my little pads to raise up my circle. Right. So then I've got my T at the top and place my circle down there. And I think just adding that little bit of depth just gives a little bit more interest to your card, just to raise it up that tiny little bit. So I'm also going to do the same one here. I'll find some other large pads. That'll do. I'm going to put this down first, because when I come to put the extra bit on, where I used the rose on yesterday's card, I'm not using the rose today, I'm using the Through the Grapevine set, which is, as I've said, I think a perfect set to use on a card for a man. It's okay Kerry, no problem. Oh bless him, I bet that's gone down well. Hopefully he won't have to have it on all through the school holidays, eh? Fingers crossed. So I'll just put my little banner down. On top of my circle, and then I can add my vine. So you see now, when I said when you put this all together, you won't see the join in the embossing on the back piece, because once you've put that down, you can't see it anyway. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to add is my Through the Grapevine bits and pieces and my sentiment. And I think what I'm going to do is put the sentiment down first, because then I can see where I'm going with my grapevine. And again, like I said, I think these squiggle script sentiments are just so easy to use. You haven't got to worry about stamping, getting your stamping platform out, just run it all through your die cutting machine and Bob's your uncle, as the saying goes. So just pop that down there, and you see I've used the same card that I've used throughout to tie it all together. I did cut the sentiment out of the same background that I cut here, but when I put it onto the matted piece, it just didn't look right, it didn't stand out enough, so I cut it in the purple instead, and I think it looks much better. That's my opinion. And it's a little bit fiddly putting the glue on, but so long as you put your glue on, if you go a little bit OTT with the glue in places, but just use your finger and just sort of not wipe it off, but spread it so that it's a little bit thinner, and then it won't ooze out everywhere. See? It's only a couple of places where it's a little bit. And then place it down where you want it on your card. No, want it that way. Yeah, that way. Now I decided to do this flat because it's very fiddly to get this to 3D. Hence the reason I thought we'll do this bit flat. Okay, so that bit's down securely. Don't worry about the glue because it'll dry clear anyway. And then we'll just add the vine leaves and the berries. Now you can add these wherever you like, however you like. I've done 3 little berries, both places. I'm going to put one up here and then one down here. And I've done 3 because they always grow in little clumps, don't they? And then I've got my leaves that I've cut out, and I just love how these emboss. I don't know whether you can see the embossing on there, but I do think the embossing is so sweet on these. It's not in your face, but it's just enough to give that little bit of interest. And if you wanted to, you could just go around the edges with a darker green if you wanted, just to sort of lift it up a bit. Hi Stephanie. Or not, as the case may be. So I'm going to pop those there. I've already put my 3D pads on the back just to save a little bit of time. I'm sorry if you can hear the mobile disco outside, that's just my neighbour going to work. Well, that's where he says he's going. And then I just pop these, put these down first, and then I can put my leaves over the top. You're obviously going to hide a little bit of this, but that's not going to matter because it's the effect that you're after rather than sort of perfection, because let's face it, nature's not perfect, is it? So I'll just pop these down here. They don't have to look uniformed or anything like that. And I'm just going to put these down the other side. And I've just got one little finishing touch to add with the gems up here. So this one's going here, and then my leaves will go there, I think. And I might just put an extra one, not that one, that one there. So I'll just take these off here. Now you see, the preparation for this is what takes the time, but actually putting the card together doesn't really take any time at all, does it? So that one's going there, like that. And you'll notice, I don't know whether you can tell, but I've actually shaped these leaves a little bit. Although they're embossed, I've just sort of shaped them round a little bit just to give them a little bit more interest. And then we'll just pop that one. I just took that little stem underneath there like that and add that on there. Okay. And then the last little touch is just to add on my 3 pearls up at the top. And I don't see any reason why you can't put gems or pearls on a mail card. It's only for effect, it just finishes the card off, to my mind, just that extra little finishing touch. I'm not going to make any excuses for putting sparkly bits on a man's card. Okay, so you see, just because you haven't got any of Lisa's papers doesn't mean you can't enter this challenge. I've made my own background. It took me 15 minutes just to decide what inks to use, where to put them. I mean, they're totally random, the colours, totally random where they're placed, but they just blend beautifully. The brushes help an awful lot, but obviously you can use sponges or whatever you normally use just to add that little bit of difference. So you see, there are two totally different cards based on exactly the same sketch, but you could use this one for a man, whereas you probably couldn't use this one for a man. Oh no, can't do this. Fine, Tina, don't worry. It's not a problem. One of those things, I've done it myself, sat there and suddenly thought, oh heck, I've just missed a live, but it's called life, isn't it? It gets in the way. So yeah, that one's based on the 5,000 members challenge giveaway sketch. Okay. However, there is another challenge going on at the moment, and I don't want you to forget this one. This is the one that's using the EDGECUTZ animals. Now I know there's a lot of you that have got them, and I know we've had some fabulous entries already, but please have a go, because I'd love to see what you do with these dies. Hi Linda. It's one of those, I looked at them and I thought, yes, I like that one. Well, I've ended up with all four, haven't I? Because, well, I have. And I love them. I think they're amazing. So if you've got them, give it a go. You could, I suppose, incorporate the two. Put your EDGECUTZ animals onto this sketch. There's no reason why not. And then you can enter both challenges with one card. So that's something to bear in mind as well, especially if you use it that way round. You could put just the head of the animal in the circle, use the animal as the circle. So, you know, lots and lots of different options for you. So don't forget, Lisa's back on your screens on the 23rd of July. It's a big, big sale show. There are bound to be some fabulous offers going. And I think if you're thinking about buying something and you've been thinking for a while, I would get it, because I know that a lot of the things that are on that show possibly won't come back. So make the most of the sale show. Claire will be back with you on Tuesday, all being well. And then Heidi will be back with you on Wednesday. And of course I'll be back next Friday, grandchildren permitting, because they're here, so I've got to banish them to downstairs. But they're good kids, so they should do what they're told, hopefully. So there you go. I'll love you and leave you. Thank you very much for joining me this afternoon. Hope you enjoyed that, and can't wait to see what cards you pop into one or both of the challenges. So have a nice weekend, everybody. Enjoy the sunshine while it lasts, because we all know what the British weather's like. So see you again next week, and have a fab weekend. Bye for now.